representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.
شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Madam President. First and foremost, I would like to thank Mr. Pedersen, the Special Envoy of the Secretary General, for his briefing. 2 weeks ago, the Constitutional Committee met in its two formats, the large group and the small group. The Syrian state has shown flexibility and a positive attitude in the initial phase leading to the first meeting of the committee. This is what the UN and the Special Envoy confirmed. He explained in his briefing today that the first cycle of negotiations enabled the parties to discuss a great number of questions linked to the work of the committee that adopted its rules of procedure, its modalities. The government of my country would reiterate the need to conform with the mandat and the terms and reference and core rules of procedure, and in particular the respect by all members of the UN for the sovereignty and independence, unity and territorial integrity of the Syrian Arab Republic. Furthermore, there is a need to respect oversight of Syria, of its political process. There is a need to respect the impartial role played by the Special Envoy without preconditions or artificial deadlines imposed upon the Constitutional Committee. It is up to it to agree on conclusions to write a constitution for Syria, to write its own future. This process must be conducted by the Syrians themselves. This is a precondition for negotiations. We would encourage the Special Envoy here. We do believe that these assurances will come to fruition during the next meeting of the Constitutional Committee next week. We're also satisfied to see that the delegation representing the Syrian state actively participated in the first round of talks. We'd like to assure you that this delegation is speaking independently based on our national belief that this dialogue is one first and foremost between Syrians, led and controlled by the Syrians. Madam, the greatest risk that the Constitutional Committee is confronted with today is external interference in its work. Any attempt to hamper the work of the Constitutional Committee that might run counter to the interests of the Syrians. We must avoid this. All Syrians hope that propitious conditions will be set up to enable the committee to work in a positive atmosphere, to ensure that efforts made be successful. Nonetheless, it was a great surprise to see that some regional international parties, instead of bringing the rules to the Constitutional Committee, did the opposite. For example, Turkey, keeping to the rules, the Turks, for example, invaded the northern part of Syria and killed many of them. This enabled Erdogan's partisan terrorists to take some of our country to create a so-called safe area. This safe area is rejected by the Syrian Arab Republic. We deem it as occupied territory, and we act as such based on international law and the Charter. The U.S. administration expressed its support for the Constitutional Committee in a very strange way. It grabbed the oil fields belonging to Syria and grabbed a resource belonging to the Syrian people. They were saying that there was a campaign against chemical weapons within the council, but they're not acting like this. So there are two countries. These two countries are pillaging our resources, Turkey and the US. And so there are these two parties, and when they're acting, then of course somebody else is going to come in, and that's Israel in this case. So one is going to steal our territory, the other one steals our oil, and the third steals our Syrian-occupied Golan. This is on a daily basis a blatant violation of the Agreement 305 on the Separation of Forces Agreement. This took place on the 20th of November and led to a number of civilian casualties, leading to the destruction of a number of homes. This occurred whilst many council members, including permanent members, make Syria say that they're not. In fact, what we're talking about is Iranophobia that the US and the Israelis share, Madam President. The terrorist war in Syria is not regarding a difference regarding the constitution. No, it's an international attack. Some people are trying to change the geopolitical map of the region. This means that the war against Syria will end once terrorism financed by foreign powers come to its end. We are perfectly willing to support the efforts made in Geneva within the Constitutional Committee. The delegation representing the Syrian state will continue to work for the Syrian people because it's the Syrian people who need to take this constitution into their own hands. Madam, the Syrian people categorically refuse the occupation of different terrorist organizations, whatever they be, the Al-Nusra Front, the Muslim Brothers, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, ISIS, all of these groups, all of them have people who studied in major universities in the US, in France, in Belgium, in Germany. All of these terrorists studied in Europe. They are cutting the throats of our citizens. They are raping our women. That is the type of international law that they learnt in your universities. The Syrian state is rejecting any separatist or successionist policy, whatever form that may take. We call for a lifting of any unilateral coercive measures imposed upon it that constitute economic terrorism. It goes without saying that these principles are things that need to be at the heart of the Constitutional Committee's work. So that is the context that we need to understand, the picture that we need to grasp. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic for his statement. Are there any other members of the Council or the Special Envoy or Ms. Halleck who would wish to take the floor again? I see no one. In that case, the meeting is adjourned and I invite Council members to join me for consultations.